And so do you have any insights on some, well, I'll give a little background. I know you're the person who introduced me to Dave Asprey
Yeah.
back in the day. I'm sure you probably still, I mean, you guys seem like you were good friends. And I've seen him in plenty of podcasts. I mean, he's all over the place. He's
Yep.
busy. And his whole brand is about essentially utilizing your brain to a more efficient manner, whatever the product is. I feel like you have partaken in a lot of, maybe not a lot of his products, but I knew you were drinking some bulletproof coffee back in the day.
Yeah.
Are you
I mean,
still?
no, yeah. So I've had the great pleasure of meeting Dave a couple times. He's just a very unique human being who's got, I mean, he's such a, there's different people that do different things in this world. And he's just, he's got his path and he's walking it and he's showing people how to do what he does, which I think is great. But yeah, like I'm a big fan of the bulletproof coffee. I mean, the idea, I remember Fred, I've hung out with Sean T a couple times, and he had this thing years ago where Abel James, who did the Wild Diet, by the way, like showed him like about putting butter in his coffee, and it was like, butter in your coffee? Like, well, this is blasphemy, like just
Right.
bananas. And I'm like, this idea that like these beverages can have value to you versus, a 1,000-calorie sugary drink. Like, you can change the way you consume these things, and it helps your brain operate better, and it helps your body operate better. And you can do this through like little biohacks or, little changes in how you think of things, and it's like the technology point of view, right? Like, hey, like, nobody wants to go to the edit menu, copy, back to the edit menu, paste, like that. You use keystrokes, right? You use shortcuts.
Right.
Life is all about being able to intersect and do shortcuts as well. So yeah, bulletproof coffee, and I still do to this day. I mean, it's been 5 or 6 years now, but I've also done a bunch of other things from other people too, and his advice and others, and you kind of just find what works for you. Some people can do things better than others. Yeah.
And so is that one of your top hacks to get you mentally right, to start doing the physical work and get in that vibe? Because I have some that I can share, but I'm curious to see if you have some sort of a routine to get you in that mentality of just getting shit done.
So I think, for me,
or are you still watching the same video from
No, I know. I wish. That's actually funny you said that. The same one mindset video. No, it depends what I'm doing, but like to me, like I'm a creature of habits. I have routines. Hydration is a big one. Like, I mean, I get up in the morning and I actually, instead of just pounding water, I do hydrogen water. I do a hydrogen tablets. It helps with inflammation. That's just me, right? Like that, but there's a lot of these little like stacks, I'm all about getting some good stretches in first thing in the morning for like not more than 5 minutes, just like, touch your toes and back and just expanding your breath, getting outside if you can, get some sunlight and get some stimulation to your eyes. But then, yeah, like, and I've got some, like, it's all about minerals for me. I have like challenges of maintaining minerals in my body. That's just my problem. So I'm always like, get some, like seawater kind of stuff with, calcium, magnesium, salts, things like that are just like help light me up. But if it's like, hey, I got a presentation coming up, or I've got a race coming up and I just need to be like laser focused, mushroom coffee is great. Like, a lot of times I'll do like bulletproof mushroom coffee combo, because that helps with like
going on there.
Yeah, like that cognitive ability. There is some like mitochondrial stimulant stuff that bulletproofs come out with, and other brands have, that help just like get those mitochondria just like fire in. A little caffeine dose never hurts anybody, especially if you're not like, I usually drink decaf, because when I want that caffeine to work, I don't want to be like, it actually kicks in. I don't need a ton of it. I just need a little bit of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like those are like some of the basic things first thing in the morning. I mean, I take a number of supplements because of issues I have health-wise, or things I'm trying to fill in gaps for, but that's like a unique biology thing.
Right.
But yeah, and then it's like trying to walk, balancing my weight, my food intake. Like, a lot of times I intermittent fast. I've intermittent fast for years. Yeah. And that, it's so funny to like, I used to be a hangry guy. Like, I used to like get on an airplane, travel for work, be, upgraded to first class or some shit. And it's like me, and I'm like freaking out. And there's a guy next to me with a bagel and cream cheese. And then, like, I started intermittent fasting and be able to separate like hunger from my behavior, right? Taking those two worlds. So I get on an airplane now and I'm like, whatever, 6-hour flight, no problem. I got some water or maybe an avocado or something like that. And I'm still sitting next to the guy with the bagel and the cream cheese. And I'm like, well, what kind of bad decisions are you making today with that shit that you're eating, man? Like you get back to the point about people making decisions. I'm like, there are lots of people in powers of companies or in their family or whatever that are just unprepared for life, and they're scrounging for whatever food they can find in an airport or at a convenience store or whatever, and they're just making bad choices. I'm like, dude, that food is what connects you to your brain. Like, it's energizing your body and energizing your heart. Like, I don't know, man. Like, who's like, you never saw Tony Robbins scarfing down 16 donuts. Like, the guys like takes, you know, all these pioneers of inspiration, Goggins included. They don't necessarily eat flawlessly, but they eat, you know, there's a pattern to what they eat, and it's definitely not whatever is available to them at, like, you know, at an airport.
Whatever time.
Yeah. And so, like, I think being methodical about that approach is always interesting. I'm always like joking, like, okay, what CEO am I sitting next to and what is he eating? Because I want to know, like, what kind of influence food has on the decisions they're going to make today, because it happens, you know, what kind of shitty sleep they got, crossing time zones, what kind of decision you're going to try to make. It's like a doctor, right? Hey, have you been awake for 36 hours doing the most complicated spinal surgery ever? Or, oh no, man, I got a great night's sleep, I'm ready to rock, I got steady hands for you. Like, I'm like, hey, if you're going to be touching my brain with a scalpel, I hope you slept good last night. I hope you ate a good meal, you know, like that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, I'm not surprised you do intermittent fasting. I think, I've done intermittent fasting as well for about 4 or 5 years now. I purposely didn't eat before our interview. And for me on a personal level, it works wonders. And I think it's what you said earlier in regards to, like, when you're sitting in the plane and somebody's eating. We've been conditioned to just eat throughout the day.
Oh yeah, and grazing, just grazing all day long.
Like, obviously your obvious 3 meals of the day. Can't forget breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Yada yada yada. Don't forget the snack, as long as it's healthy. And, you know, sure, on a personal level, depending on what circumstances, like you said, you're dealing with your health, and in some very specific situations, you can't necessarily do things like intermittent fasting. But research has shown that if you lower the calories that you intake across your life, you will live longer. Now, there's a thin line. You don't want to not eat anything. Right. But I've come to find out kind of what you said, which is the first few times you're mentally sort of shook. Like, your body keeps telling you, dude, this is when you eat. This is when you eat. You should eat. Everybody's eating right now. You should eat.
Right.
Once you actually get past that day or the first couple of days, and you realize you're not only are you still walking and feeling alive, you're actually sharper. You're mentally way more acute. And the farther I got into intermittent fasting, the easier it became to notice that as soon as I went for the meal, suddenly my body just started like shut down. Like, it's time for a nap. I'm starting to yawn. I'm not really as in tune with the conversations going on around me. Yeah. And that's not to say that any food will do that to you, but I do find it interesting how, once again, going back to simplifying things, it's a lot simpler when you eat less food in a day. And when you find out that actually not only is better on your bank account, also better for your health, you're more productive at work. In some ways, you almost wonder, why were we being fed all this other information? Well, it's called marketing. People are trying to sell you stuff. They want you to buy the breakfast. They want you to have those snacks throughout the day. They want you. And so, go for it.
I was just gonna say, it's funny because, I mean, the word breakfast, I mean, it's break fast. I mean, there was this cultural phenomenon going back, especially in that farming, you know, the agricultural society we used to have, where you'd go to bed at like 7 o'clock, you know, you had dinner when it got dark, right? And then you would wake up and when it got sunlight. So you'd have a 12, 13 hour fast. Well, if you look at intermittent fasting, it's 12 to 16 hours. The challenge is a lot of people go, hey man, I was watching TV, it's 9, 10 o'clock, I'm having a snack, and then they get up at 6. And I'm like, dude, like 7, your body isn't even done digesting the food from the last thing you ate, and you're trying to put more food in there. And then that compounds over time. That's like legitimately the challenge. It's not that and then of course it's what your choice is, right? I mean, a lot of people just pound sugary coffee first thing in the morning, like, I'm good to go, rock out. and they're not even getting nutrients. They haven't had a glass of water. They're having a soda or something like that. So like, I think the fat, and then of course you're talking about all the things that happen with fasting, and talk about hunter gatherers that would like, hey man, I went out and I killed a lion, then I would feast, and then they would sleep for like 2 solid days to like repair all the things in their body, because they might not eat again for 4 or 5 days. But apparently, like the way our bodies are designed, everybody thinks that if I don't eat, you're just going to fall apart and die. When in fact, what you're finding out is like, well, if that were true, we would never have survived the hunt, because you would be like ridiculously like incapable of hunting for an animal after 4 days of not eating, right? Like all these things turn on that allow you to be sharper in that 3-4 day window. And you go, oh, I don't feel hunger. I can like adapt. My eyes can do things. My brain functions differently. I'm now running off of ketones instead of like glucose. Like the whole thing shifts. And then you go, I got the lion. Now we're eating, and we're eating good. We're eating like kings for 2 days.
Celebration and then now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that hunt, that feasting and fasting thing, there's a guy that I listen to now. He's got a great book about like a change in the way we eat. His name's Joel Green. He has a book called The Immunity Code, and he talks about like how our immune system is tuned, and how like there's research to basically say that like it's not even day-to-day meals, it's the 2-day patterns actually. So it's like a 48-hour window of eating that actually contributes to one another, and it's the meal before the one you're having and the one you're having after. All three of those, you know, the N minus one and the N plus one are all related to one another. So just being able to use science to help manage, you know, your internal organs, because again, you just a certain point you get old, and then you go, I want to be fit, but then you want to age gracefully. And that's that aging gracefully thing. I think that people, when they get into their 40s and 50s, are like, okay, it's cool that I'm in good shape, but I want to live to be 100, not 65. Like, you don't want to burn that candle out so fast. And I think there's a lot that goes into that too. So anyway,
all right, thanks for watching this clip from Appropriate Culture. If you want to watch the full episode, go ahead and check out us at appropriateculture.com. You can also check us out on the social media platforms at Appropriate Culture. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.